morning, everyone. We are excited to be here. In just a moment, State Attorney Worrell is going to come up and give you an explanation of why we're standing on the side of East Colonial Drive, as well as give you some very important updates about how things have been going so far since she's taken office again. So, State Attorney Worrell.
Thank you so much, Dave, and good morning, everyone. So I just finished my first quarter back in office, and when I took office, I told you all that I couldn't make any statements about how anything was going at the moment, that I really needed some time to get back in office and assess everything, and then I'd be able to give you some updates. So that's what this is today. It is going to be my first quarterly update about the first quarter of the year and how it went, and the things that we're going to be looking forward to getting to in this next quarter, as well as why I'm standing out here on East Colonial Drive this morning. So, as I finish the first quarter, I'm proud to report a strong and successful start to my term back in office. Thanks to the dedication of the men and women who work for the 9th Judicial Circuit State Attorney's Office, we've made significant progress in advancing our mission to serve justice and protect our community. The mission of the 9th Judicial Circuit State Attorney's Office is to promote public safety by using data-driven methods to hold offenders accountable, provide restorative justice for victims, and to redirect children and people in need of services in an effort to build stronger, safer communities. We aim to achieve the highest standard of ethics and competence to promote a fair and equitable legal system. Our most notable accomplishments this quarter include convictions in several high-profile felony cases. These convictions reflect our firm commitment to upholding the rule of law, assuring accountability for serious criminal offenses, prosecuting cases when necessary to ensure the safety of our community. Our investigators, attorneys, support staff, and law enforcement partners have worked tirelessly to resolve these cases, and their efforts have directly contributed to safer neighborhoods and a restored trust in the justice system. Now, as you can see here by the graphic on my right, I can boast that we have taken 61 felony cases to trial in Orange and Osceola counties this first quarter, and those cases have resulted in a 70% conviction rate. Now, the first quarter of my last year in office, our conviction rate was 90%. So I'm looking forward to working back towards getting to that 90% conviction rate. I typically do not focus on conviction rates as far as the value of my prosecutors, because we don't really control convictions. However, it's important for the community to know that we're working hard every day to make sure that violent offenders are held accountable and that we can be safe in our communities. Now, this conviction rate is 70% for all felonies. I noticed that during the 16 months that I wasn't in office, you were seeing conviction rates that were just for certain types of felonies. It's important for you to know that this conviction rate for all felonies is up 5% from the entire 2024, from 65% felony conviction rate. So in my first quarter, we have raised and increased our felony conviction rate by 5%, and I look forward to continuing that as we go forward. I want to highlight a few cases, and in honor of Child Abuse Prevention Month here in April, I want to talk about a recent conviction that my office received in a child abuse case. There were 2 adults living in one hotel room with their 6 children. The children's ages were 6, 5, 4, and a set of twins that were 2 and a 9-month-old baby. On July 5th of 2022, the mother called 911 and reported that one of the kids had drowned. When the deputies arrived, they found the hotel room in a horrific state, and all the kids had signs of physical abuse and neglect. The 6-year-old was unresponsive, and ultimately, he didn't survive. His cause of death, however, was not drowning, but it was blunt force trauma. On April 14th, 2025, his abuser was brought to justice. His father was sentenced to life in prison on count 1 for his death, followed by a 30-year consecutive sentence, as well as 5-year consecutive sentence terms in this case. Now, let me be clear, there is nothing that can undo the harm that was done for the life that was taken. However, this outcome ensures that the defendant is held accountable for his actions, and I am so thankful for the work of our special victims prosecutors who worked hard to bring this case to a close and will continue to pursue justice with the same resolve in any case involving abuse or exploitation of children, particularly this month as we focus on child abuse prevention. The next case I want to focus on is human trafficking. On April 17th, 2025, we received another conviction in human trafficking. In 2024, there were 115 human trafficking cases that came through Orange and Osceola counties. This is just one of them. In 2020, there was a 14-year-old runaway that was suspected of being involved in commercial sexual activity in exchange for money, also known as human trafficking. An undercover agent set up an agreement to have sex with the 14-year-old girl, and she was brought to a specific place at a specific time that was arranged via text messages. The evidence showed that the defendant in this case arranged the dates, drove her around, taught her about the business, and collected money from her for commercial sexual activity. She was placed in ads for sexual activity in partial nudity. And this particular individual was out on bond awaiting trial in this case when he was arrested again for domestic violence. On April 17, 2025, the jury returned a guilty verdict for human trafficking of a child. And this felony carries a mandatory life sentence, which was immediately imposed. Because of the tireless efforts of my human trafficking division, this individual will no longer be a danger to the children of our communities. Through the diligent efforts of our law enforcement agents, the prosecutors, justice was served for this victim, reinforcing our commitment to protecting the citizens, holding traffickers fully accountable under the law. But our work here does not end. We remain dedicated in our commitment to protecting survivors, preventing exploitation, and building stronger, safer communities. And now, for the reason why I have chosen this location for today. This location is the scene of yet another road rage homicide. I am told that our area ranks #1 for road rage incidents in the country. This is of great concern to me personally as a mother. I use Colonial Drive every day to take my children to and from school and their different activities. And as a mother, I believe that as a citizen of this community, I want my children and I to be safe when we travel on the roadways. But the people of this community were not safe on January 22nd, 2024, because the defendant in this case was driving and felt slighted when he perceived being cut off by the victim. And he got out of his vehicle and they began to argue. He brandished his firearm and told the victim to move and get away. And when the victim, who never got out of his car, did not immediately leave, the defendant brandished his firearm and began shooting at him. And eventually, the victim was killed by one shot in the back of his head. There were 6 shell casings that were located on the scene. And you see the busy traffic that is taking place here behind me. Everyone everyone in the community was at risk of being harmed that day. And I will not tolerate this type of criminal activity in this community. We have entirely too many incidents of road rage. And what I am saying today to the members of this community, when someone does something in traffic that you do not like, do not get out of your vehicle. Do not roll down your window. Stay in your car and keep going, because the people of this community deserve to be safe. And as we have gun laws that are allowing more and more people to get their hands on weapons, all of us are at risk every single day in our daily lives. And as the state attorney, the chief law enforcement officer for the 9th Judicial Circuit, I want you to know that my commitment to this community is to hold people accountable when they put us all in danger. That we deserve to go about our daily lives without fear for our safety and for the safety of our families. I am happy to say that on March 10th, 2025, a jury found the defendant in this case guilty, and he is facing 25 years to life in prison for second-degree murder, as well as 15 years for shooting into an occupied vehicle. Gun violence continues to plague our communities, whether it be in a neighborhood, on the street, or out here in traffic as we all travel about our ways. And as someone who works every day to uphold justice and accountability, I see firsthand the devastating impact these crimes have on victims and on neighborhoods. As I mentioned, beyond my role as state attorney, I speak as a mother that fears the everyday routine could end in tragedy, and that is a burden that no parent should have to bear. Every child deserves to grow up safe without the shadow of violence looming over them. We must continue to invest in prevention, strengthen enforcement, and support victims and communities in healing from the trauma of gun violence. At this time, I would like to invite one of the most fierce gun violence prevention advocates that I know to come and talk to us about gun violence in our communities. Linda?
Enough is enough. All of us want to be safe while driving in our communities. Yet, between 2014 and 2023, the number of people shot in road rage incidents surged more than 400% in the United States. There is a new data collector, and every town calls it Every Shot, which is an AI-powered tool that tracks U.S. shootings and gun violence in real time, using U.S. news outlets as sources of information. Florida has the highest number of road rage incidents with a gun in this country. Since January 2025, we have had 27 reported road rage incidents with a firearm in Florida. And these are just the ones that were reported to news agencies. We ask, why is this happening? There was a surge spike in gun sales that started in 2020 during COVID. There are now more guns in America than people. Some people will tell you it's not the guns that cause the problems, it's the people. Yes, people pull the trigger, but guns are the instrument of death. Another question is, why is this just an American problem? Other countries have angry, anxious people, but the difference is other countries either don't have the guns or they have common sense laws for those that choose to own a firearm. Shoot first laws, better known as stand your ground, give people a license to kill, allowing them to shoot first and ask questions later, then claim self-defense. People can use deadly force as an option rather than the last. These laws apply even if the person started the confrontation, and they can safely walk away. In 57% of Florida shoot-first cases, the person who claimed stand your ground could have safely retreated to avoid confrontation. Shooters feel empowered to instigate violence or act on unjustified fear and then claim self-defense. 88% of Americans think you should get a permit before carrying a concealed gun in public. In fact, 80% of gun owners Non-gun owners, Republicans, Democrats, Independents agree that high safety standards are critical in issuing concealed carry permits. States that did not require a permit had more than triple the amount of road rage shootings, victimizations than those states with historically more protective standards. Road rage can be a reflection of broader social unrest. Driving is something that many of us must do, so it appears roadways have become an arena in which they fight for power and control. People grab for whatever's close to them to use as a weapon. A national study found that motorists in a vehicle with a gun were more likely to behave aggressively and to exhibit road rage. Stricter gun laws are not a restriction on the Second Amendment. Better background checks, having to get a permit to carry a concealed firearm is not against the Second Amendment. We need more common sense legislation. Driving should not be a death sentence. Thank you.
As a state, just last week we experienced a mass shooting on a college campus. I want you to know that my commitment to this community is that I will go after perpetrators of gun violence in our community. I want you to know that my commitment to this community is that I will go after perpetrators of gun violence, and we will prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law so that we can all feel safe in Central Florida, the community that we all love so much. Thank you.
State Attorney has a very busy schedule, but at this point we'd like to open it up just for some on-topic questions. So, Madam.
You talked about previous times the backlog of the misdemeanor cases. How is that process going now? How many of those extra prosecutors have come in, and how is the integration working?
So we've got 6 prosecutors that came in from statewide. Many of them, in fact, the majority of them have previously worked in my office, so that's amazing. They're experienced and they know what they're doing. They are currently working diligently to help us clear that backlog. I've met with Nick Cox from statewide and spoken with him almost every day since this has been implemented. It's going well, and I'm looking forward to a successful clearing of our backlog.
So 7% this quarter just ended. The last quarter you were in office, you said the conviction rate was 95%?
It was 90% in the first quarter of 2023. Yeah.
What's the difference between the cases then and now?
So it's not the difference between the cases, it's the difference between how you run an office. It's the difference between selecting the appropriate cases to go to trial on and not just throwing things to the wall to see what sticks. It's making sure that we don't gamble on holding someone accountable by forcing a case to trial that should actually be a plea. And we're going to be working on getting the culture of prosecution in our office to a place where that's our main focus once again.
So you're saying
Any of the cases in those numbers are from the prior administration or not?
So these are all the convictions from my first quarter of this year. So these all were tried and convicted under my administration, but I'm still dealing with lingering decisions from the prior administration. So I'm hoping that we'll see this number continue to go back up to where I had it in the first quarter of 2023.
So on those lines, and some of that 30% are cases that, in your opinion, might not have should have maybe not gone that far.
I agree. Yes.
You talked about the backlog. I'm just curious, when you came back into office, did you feel that you had the proper staffing in place? And can you tell us how much of that backlog was it more than normal for a transition such as when you came back in?
So I'll tell you that the backlog was higher than it was when I left office in August of 2023. And the reason that the backlog was lower was because we were diligently working towards clearing the backlog. But I want to be clear, the issue is the non-arrest cases. It's not the backlog. The issue is that for every one non-arrest case that we clear, 2 more come in. So working through the backlog is only part of the issue. Being able to stop the backlog from happening is another issue, and that's the impetus of this non-arrest policy.
In the past, there's also been animosity between your office and like the Orange County Sheriff's Office and the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. How is that relationship? Has it changed this time around? Are they getting cases to you in a way that you think you can handle better? Not handle, but have the evidence you need to prosecute this better?
Thank you for correcting yourself on that, because it's absolutely not whether or not we can handle it, but whether or not we receive the cases with the best evidence for prosecution. And that's part of what makes a better conviction rate, is having better cases to start with. I want to be clear, I don't have animosity towards anyone. I am willing to work with our law enforcement partners for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that is for the safety of the community of the 9th Judicial Circuit. So I'm willing to sit at the table and do whatever we can to ensure the safety. And you know, in this case that I was here to talk about today, and I know you all want to talk about non-arrest, but in the case of the road rage shooting that happened today, it was our office's partnership with the Orlando Police Department and the great job that they did in ensuring that we were able to bring the shooter in this case to justice.
I guess what I was asking though is, have there been improvements in that relationship as far as them providing you what you think you need for the cases?
So we're still working through all of those things. As you may or may not remember, some of you may not have been covering it back then, but in the on my way out of office in August of 2023, I was doing a tour that was called Building Better Cases. So it has always been my desire to build better cases, and we can only do that by working collaboratively with law enforcement. We did it then, and we're going to continue to do it now.
When it comes to gun ranges, we constantly see gun regulations evolving and slightly impact the country. Hearing that yours are the one gun-related road rage, how concerning is it, and what kind of conversations are you having with law enforcement about vehicles, whether they're pulled over, detained, whatever, finding guns in those vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, it's a concern for law enforcement. It's a concern for our office. When the Stand Your Ground laws were evolving, law enforcement, state attorneys everywhere, we were saying, no, you are creating a danger in our communities. Let's not do this. So I think that the conversations need to be had with the legislators constantly to ensure that they understand that we are seeing a rise in gun violence because of the lax gun laws that we have in our community. And the best way for our state to keep our communities safe is to have more regulation, not infringing upon Second Amendment, but ensuring that there is regulation so that we have fewer guns getting into the hands of wrong people. I cannot tell you how many kids are getting guns in their hands right now, and we've got to do something to fix it. Otherwise, like I said, we're all going to continue to be in danger.
Now, how does constitutional carry figure into that assessment?
Well, what it does is, again, it's another issue where you see more guns. We have an increase of guns getting into the hands of the wrong people. And here's what I've always said. You have people who have bad tempers. You have people who have bad judgment. When those people get guns in their hands, it doesn't give them a lower temper. It doesn't give them better judgment. What it does is put a gun in the hand of someone with a bad temper and bad judgment, and that is a recipe for bad situations, disastrous situations that put all of us in danger. So we have to take that into account as we continue to make laws allowing more and more people to have guns in their hands, because we're going to see things like what happened in Tallahassee continue to happen on a more regular basis. And I saw that we are kind of, it's okay. I'm the one who decided to have a press conference in the middle of the street, so we'll allow for the traffic noise and the airplane noise. Between traffic and the airport, I think this is probably the worst possible place. I hear that we are stepping backwards from lowering the age of allowing people to get guns, and I cannot tell you how pleased I am to hear that, and I hope that we continue in that direction, because something that I've always talked about as it relates to juvenile justice is that the brain doesn't fully mature until the age of 25. So even allowing people to get guns at the age of 21 is saying that we are giving people who have not fully developed their brains access to kill. And we shouldn't be doing that. We need to act more responsibly as a community. If we truly care about law and order and public safety, then we need to legislate in a way that reflects that, and we need to ensure that there are regulations that are going to keep us safe as a community.
Does it feel like has there been any recent communications with the Attorney General's office? Does it feel like that pressure has subsided, or are they still coming at you?
So, as I said in my press conference, or one of my many press conferences last week, I'm here for public safety. I'm not here to focus on politics. And anything that you hear in that vein is focused on politics over public safety. And the only pressure that I feel is the pressure to ensure that I do everything within my power to ensure the safety of the people of the Ninth Judicial Circuit. And that's my focus. All right, thank you all for coming out to East Colonial Drive. We'll let you know where we're going to be next.